there's a lot of fragility in the world today. So I think it's very helpful to be able to discern the difference between assertive and aggressive communication, no matter what you're doing, right? Addressing elephants in personal relationships with friends, lovers, colleagues, sales, talking to prospects and guiding them through whether your solution solves their problem. Emotional conversations, therapeutic conversations where you're digging up the root of an emotional problem or a pattern that's dragging your life down. All sorts of conversations that typically have a goal, right? Even conversations that don't have a goal and are just for rapport. It's really easy to conflate the difference. I think the biggest, and I've written about this on Twitter before, is the biggest difference to me between assertive and aggressive communication is assertive communication opens up dialogue with the objective of clarity, right? You assert a truth, a point you want to make, something you need to address. Whereas aggressive communication shuts down dialogue, and the objective of that isn't clarity, it's submission, right? Now, the nuances there is assertive tonality and aggressive tonality can, under the surface, be interchangeable, right? If I talk to you with a little bit of a more forceful tonality, my overall presence can fluctuate between a lighter or a more aggressive, passionate tone. But the overall vibe of what I'm trying to communicate is assertive. And I'm clearly there to achieve clarity with you. And it communicates confidence, right? It's I have something to say, and now I'm open to hearing what you have to say about it. And the objective is for us to kind of reach that overlapping area on a Venn diagram and bring our differences and find somewhere to connect. Whereas, an aggressive way of coming about a conversation is like, I don't want to hear what you have to say, but I can even be aggressive communicating and shutting down your ideas with a very calm tone, right? And aggressive dialogue is more like, it's more defensive. It doesn't necessarily communicate confidence or clarity. It's defensive. It needs to protect a thought, an idea, or an emotion, right? So the first layer is being really clear on the objective, whether that's clarity or submission, the tone, whether you're communicating that you're open to the other person's ideas and exchanging thoughts and statements, or if you're there to get the other person to just surrender to what you think is right and you need to protect your truth or your idea or your perspective, right? Well, so much of this can get lost. If someone shows up to a conversation, or like you're a man with a woman, right, and you're trying to figure out what the problem is, there can be so much dissonance between your perspective and her perspective. Say, and I've had a podcast episode about this before with Jonathan. We use the example of that movie, The Breakup, where Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston have this big relational miscommunication, and there's just a lot of miscommunication because they're not being clear about what they need. I don't think they're even clear about what they need on the back end of that. And there's the clarity you have with yourself in terms of what you're experiencing, and then there's the clarity that you have collaboratively. In any relational dynamic, whether that's romantic, professional, platonic, or with strangers, there's always the you, the them, and then the relational dynamic and the conversation and the overlap in the Venn diagram. And those things are always at play. We tend to enmesh them and overlap them, right? And it really keeps us from bridging those gaps because there's always going to be differences and areas to connect over. Trying to think of a specific example. Like, if a woman is feeling defensive because she felt like you didn't care, then she might be aggressive in the way she shows up to that conversation and need you to submit to her idea that you didn't care, right? Like, she's very insistent on the fact that you showed that you didn't care. But the way she communicates that can just be like this stubbornness and this is the way it happened for me. In the breakup example, like she's like, oh, I asked you to bring me lemons for this centerpiece. And he's just from the purely logical perspective of, you asked me for lemons and I brought you a lemon. You should have specified 12 lemons, right? He's taking a very logical approach, and she's feeling very defensive about the emotional thing of like, you didn't listen to what I have to say, you haven't making me feel connected with lately, you didn't really care. I've been slaving away all day in the kitchen and you don't understand that. Right? So there's like logical approaches and emotional approaches too. And it's funny because on the surface they can show up very similar. When a woman is speaking from an extremely emotional place, and even a man who's speaking from an extremely emotional place, the engine of the logic is emotion. And emotion and logic are irrevocable in that way. Some of the people who post really short-sighted takes on relational insights, this is where they struggle, right? They place logic and emotion as enemies and opponents, when it's a huge misconception to believe that emotion and logic are at odds with each other. If you're unclear on how emotion and how you feel informs the way you're viewing a situation, the way you're thinking about a situation, then that's a blind spot. Right? Because emotion is always informing how we perceive things, how we communicate things, how we think about things. So when you aren't aware of how emotion informs logic, you can make all these logical rationalizations, both with other people and with yourself, that are really nonsensical and don't fit or apply or ineffective to what you're trying to collaborate on. So it's really important to understand the distinctions there, and it just brings in that whole controversial topic about EQ, emotional intelligence. Anybody who is a high-level salesman knows how much emotion can guide logic. Anyone who has achieved a certain level of self-actualization or self-awareness, or relational skills with other people and communication, they're great at this because they understand that those two things are always elements in the conversation at play. And if you show up to a conversation, and this also brings in the fact that if you show up to a conversation assertive and your aim is clarity, if your truth that you bring, if your truth that you assert and are trying to clarify offends the other person, tying back to fragility, they can identify your communication as aggressive, even if you weren't being aggressive with it, right? Even if your aim of assertive dialogue wasn't submission, it's clarity. And this is where the receiver can actually be the unreasonable one, because fragility is a liability in that way. If you perceive a truth as offensive, you will be impacted by assertive clarity as if it was aggressive. This is where women can identify something that, like a statement. Say a statement makes you feel insecure, or it makes you worried, or it makes you feel offended. Then your automatic reaction can be like, this is wrong, right? Or you can speak from that place. Which is why fragility is such a liability in relational dynamics, in communication, in sales. And the more you can liaison and understand what's happening on the surface level and on the deeper level, the more effectively you can guide and collaborate on conversation, right? The more you get it, the more you understand what's at play, and the less blind spots you have. So, if you have any personal anecdotes or questions, please comment them below. And if this helps you at all in showing up to your next conversation or addressing your next elephant, please let me know. Love if you would like and subscribe and share this if it's helpful. I always forget to call to action that at the end of my videos, but much love. Hope this helps.